Okay, we're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the South-Afrifur podcast here at 8 o'clock CAT, CAT and also Central European Time, as well as 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Today we actually have a very special guest with us. We have Unci from Austria. Say hello, Unci.
Hello everybody, here. Hi from Austria.
Now, Unci is obviously with me today are Scratc and Unci.
Hey.
And Unci is actually the co-founder of Lakeside Furs as well as Eurofurence, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I've been among the other organizers of the first Eurofurence, and the second I attended Eurofurence, the early editions, and now I'm one of 3 furries organizing Lakeside Furs, the Austrian convention that has taken place for 9 years so far.
So tell us a little bit about, you started or you became a furry. I think I don't even know how you say that.
I grew up with a black cat for 19 years, and so I became very close to cats. And I found out that I was a snow leopard when I looked at one in a zoo in Germany around the year 1993. I looked at the snow leopard and I saw that's me, as if I look in a mirror. So I found my species, and I also found around that time I studied computer engineering in computer sciences in University of Karlsruhe in Germany. They had a big IBM 3090 mainframe computer, and on this big mainframe computer they had a few Usenet news groups. One of these news groups was Alt Fan Furry, which was at that time one of the main meeting places and main discussion groups for the furry community, which in the 90s only existed in the United States, really. So I came into contact with US furries, and also some of the first German furries. I was living in Germany at that time. So I was part of the German community as it started. And I also started on Forumok then, which is this text-based role-playing thing that Ivic is also on. It's might be a bit exotic for furries who have come on nowadays, but it's still on, and it's a very great way to get to keep in contact with friends from all over the world. Later I moved to Austria, and I got in contact with Austrian furries, and then we discussed and thought, okay, let's have another convention, let's have our own convention here. Let's spend a few days in summer at a lake and enjoy summer together. So we called it Lakeside Furs, and we booked a few days at a youth hostel. This went on, it went bigger. I think I can talk about Lakeside Furs in more detail later.
Around about what year was Lakeside Furs' first,
Meetup,
yeah.
9 years, so 2006, I would assume.
2006.
Yes. So the 10th is 2016. Well, 7 it was. It was first,
okay.
Yes.
And then with Eurofurence, has that been running longer or shorter than Lakeside Furs?
Eurofurence has been running, I think it started in 1997 or so.
A lot longer. Yeah.
Yes, it has been running very long, and I think they are now
years.
at 19 or so. And I think they are at number 19 or 20
19.
next year.
Okay.
Nice.
19, okay. But I was only at Eurofurence 1, 2, 3, 4, and after that it became too big for me. I'm not really a person for big conventions. Also, there were some disagreements with the people who had taken up organizing this thing, and
your reference also moved around a lot, if I'm not mistaken. Just like I think Lakeside, you just before the podcast started, you mentioned Lakeside Furs as well.
Yes, the Brexit process just started with a few rooms booked at the youth hostel, and we were 20 furries, staying, I think, from Thursday to Sunday, so 4 days. Was a really nice vacation, but we were not among ourselves. We just booked a few rooms to stay overnight and a room to have a party together. And we've been there for 2 years. We have been there once in autumn also with some diving in the lake, which was very nice. After that, we didn't manage to find enough space at that hostel for the right season, so we went to another location, to Zwickau, and there we decided let's book our own house, let's make everything together, not at a youth hostel, but book our own house with an own kitchen and make all meals for ourselves and do everything ourselves. So it became a self-catering convention the following year, after let's say first 4, 6, 7 and 8 were in Haus Stoffenhof near Zell am See. Really a big and nice lake in Austria. It was about 2 kilometers from that lake away. And we had a lot of activities there, like hiking, exploring gorges and caves, and fursuiting in the town at the lake.
Yeah.
But this house also became too small for us, so we changed to another house in Wörgl, so let's at first 8 and 9, which is really nice hotel, but with not so much around, and some people didn't like that location either. So we're changing again, and next year we will be at Park am See, which is in the southern part of Austria, in Kärnten, close to the Slovenian border, close to the city of Villach.
And your current attendance scout, you said you started off with 20, so that was like more of like a meetup. Your current
yes, it was about 20, and we last exit first last year we have been 44. The year before we have even been some more, because but there have been some, as I told you, that who didn't like the location.
Oh, okay.
Next year we have a capacity of 67, but it will be okay if it's just 40 or 50. We will see.
Yeah, but it's still running. It's still.
It want to be a really huge convention, because that will be too stressy also for the organizers, and we also want to make it possible. We are now for 1 week, ever since we have our own house. We want to make it possible for everybody to get in close personal contact with everybody else.
Yeah, it's easier to do that with a smaller crowd, keep it a little bit more.
Yes, I've been at one really big hotel convention that was Conference 9 in 98 in the United States, and there I really had problems getting together with furry friends. I knew that I was there, but I didn't really have a mobile phone yet, and it was difficult. Some people I saw once at the convention, and then I lost them again. And it was everybody was just running around from one event to the next. So Lex at first really much quieter than that.
You've been in the fandom for quite a while. I cannot talk about stuff in 2006 or even before that. I'm not that young, but I'm not that new. I'm a little bit of a newer furry. That is.
When has the South African community started to form? There have been more than a few furries, and when have you had your first furry there?
The other people might actually say more, but I think I met the first furry in South Africa last year. So other people will probably be able to elaborate on that. Ivic, Scratc.
Hey, what?
First fur meet?
What, you mean ours?
Yes.
The one in...
No, first fur meet, like your first interaction with the group of furries.
Classify group.
Like really big ones, I've only actually started them, well, kind of soonish myself.
2008 was our first one.
Yeah.
That was at Was it 2008? 2000? Yeah, 2008. Because that was when our that was when I'm trying. South-Afrifur was created.
Okay, that makes sense. So as you can see, Unci, it's like a little bit of a newer phenomenon probably in this country. not necessarily, but definitely the amount of people to that extent that you can actually get together.
I've actually been in contact with furries from South Africa or also other Asian countries like Zimbabwe.
Oh, I know.
We have furries in Zimbabwe.
I think there is a furry there. I think I know him.
Yes, that was the problem. Years ago, there was one furry in one country, and they really complained about being lonely and not getting into contact with anyone, and all their furry friends were American or European or so, and so far away. So it's good.
Scratc.
Just kind of a community there now as well.
Scratc and I actually started like that as well. Like most of our friends were overseas.
Yeah.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's still sort of that kind of phenomenon where when people actually come onto our site and introduce themselves and things like that, they keep on saying, "Oh, but I thought I was the only fur in South Africa and this and that and the other thing," and then they all meet up and then we all alienate them.
Yeah, but seriously, people can't complain about that anymore. It's like the easiest thing to find on the internet. Furries, South Africa, the first thing that pops up is the website, so you're gonna find it.
Well,
and this year I also got in personal contact with Rakun, who has been at Lakeside first South African furry that I met privately.
Was he at Lakeside? I didn't know Rakun went to Lakeside
yes,
Furries.
Yes, there. He's studying and working in Vienna, I think, right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I thought he was I thought he only went to your reference.
No, he went to Lakeside, and then I think through his contacts there, he decided to go through to your reference and then do that talk of his house.
He went to a couple of furry conventions and also wants to attend some more, just get really into contact with the communities here.
Yeah, no, like I said, we're a little bit separated, but I would actually have to agree that the linear growth of the fandom is starting to affect this country more and more as well. There's definitely this growth. I even went through the forum, just the forum. That's not a good perception of the growth, but it's definitely growing at a steady rate still. And it's definitely affecting this country exactly the same rate and way that it's affecting globally. Except when you're talking about 6,000 furries, linearly growing would be a few hundred furries a year.
Yeah,
finding the site.
It's 2 to 4 furs a month.
Yeah, without it's like 2 to 4 furs a month, and it's always been like that since 2008.
I remember the time in the 90s when could really be in personal contact, in personal friends with all other European furries, or at least continental European. British community was something a bit separate, and they also had greater numbers there already. And now it is when you come to Vienna or also to the big German cities, when you go to Berlin or somewhere, you have a really big community which is also fragmented, and some furries don't like other furries, so you have to take care who you want to meet, and it's impossible to meet all at once, but that's just natural. And we are also observing this in Vienna, where not everybody is going to the same meetings.
Yeah. Sort of speaking about Europe as a whole, I mean, obviously, this is something that we spoke about earlier as well, but when you put a whole bunch of people from America, Europe, I mean, France, Germany, Austria, Ukraine, the Norwegian, Swedish areas and everything like that, when you start putting them into one specific area, and I know that you haven't necessarily gone to Eurofluence in a while, but if one thinks about it, I mean, what exactly happens when you have so many different sort of cultures coming together? And I kind of mentioned this also before the time. I mean, it's probably less likely that any of them are actually conservative in respect to their own specific cultural views. But when they do come together, have there ever actually been sort of any cultural clashes that people have sort of experienced between one another?
Not aware of any frictions coming from the cultural differences of where people come from. It's more like they don't speak each other's language so well, so
lost in translation.
Each other's group. It's a bit of a problem in translation. I have been to South-Afrifur this year, which is the biggest Italian convention, and I was only one of two from other places. So there were, I think, more than 60 Italians and one Spanish and one Austrian furry. So everything was in Italian, and some of the panels and physics were translated for us too, specifically. So that was a bit difficult to find other furries there. I wanted to make new friends and meet the Italian community, really, to find some who can also speak English, or nobody spoke German there, but I can speak completely then in English. So it was a bit of an adventure there. But it's nice. Also, we are getting more and more international at our Austrian convention. Lakeside First, there are Russians coming here several years in a row.
Do they outdrink like everybody there?
One of them was standing to the bar this year and making nice mixed drinks there. But it was not too bad, no. There were, it was a group of people, and some of them don't really speak English that well, so they keep to themselves and do most of the things as a group. Another of them, Max, held a nice tea drinking our tea ceremony in the evening, which was also a very pleasant thing.
Yeah, that is a problem that I always wonder in Europe. There's this massive thing with language, right? We as South Africans don't really know a lot about that, because English is basically like the business language this side, mainly because firstly we belong to the Commonwealth, and or we're part of the Commonwealth, which and the other thing is there's so many different languages here that is supposedly official, that English is the way of communication from person to person in business and everything.
So over there, everybody's supposed to learn English at least at school as a first foreign language, if they don't speak it as their first language.
Yeah, first or second language, yeah.
Yeah, but we still had that. I'm hearing an echo of myself. Ivic?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Is somebody's mic or some... Okay, now the echo is gone. Thanks. No, sorry, it was just a little bit confusing hearing myself. Yeah, sorry, back on topic. What I was referring to is, like, I've been to Holland, and I noticed that there are people that side that really struggle speaking English. They speak Dutch, and that's it. So I start speaking... Yeah, they're not?
A lot of the Dutch people speak English.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Those, but I know.
But
more than Germans. There are some Germans and Austrians who have had it at school at some point and who forgot most of it, and who don't really speak English as an active language. They understand a bit, but they can't hold a conversation.
But for us, it's so intertwined in media and everything that I think it's really difficult for South Africa to understand when they get that side. It's like I'm going to this place and then this person speaks Dutch, and I speak to the person in English, and they're like not getting a word that I'm saying. And okay, well, hold on a second, let me speak Afrikaans, because this is actually my home language, and I'm like, Afrikaans, and then the person understands me 100%.
And last
so Afrikaans is really close to the Dutch language when you speak with them.
Ridiculously
they
close.
They will understand where you're from, but they will understand what you want to say. Right? Yes, like Austrian and German.
It's ridiculously close, and what they actually normally say, it sounds like some kind of modified, ridiculous, strange Dutch that you're speaking, and it's also a lot slower than they speak. They speak quick, and we speak a lot slower.
Dutch sounds ridiculous to Germans anyway. So.
But their language is crazy. Their language is also always like, it always sounds aggressive, no matter what you say.
Are you talking about
Sorry
German?
if I offended anybody speaking Dutch, but it sounds ridiculous to me.
Yeah, you should listen to Afrikaans. It's even worse, in my opinion. But just a thing about yourself. You mentioned, okay, you now live in Austria, right?
Yes.
But you lived in Germany.
Hmm?
Where do you come from?
Originally.
Yes.
In Germany. I grew up in South Germany, near Freiburg, and then I studied in a few places, and also I was in East Germany for some time. I came to Austria also through my studies. I was doing my diploma thesis here at an Austrian company, and I liked it here, I liked the mountains, and I liked people here, so I decided to become self-employed and to do my own job here in Austria. In the European Union, it's not really a problem. You keep your nationality. I keep my German passport, but when you are in the European Union, you can have a home anywhere within the Union.
Yeah.
You can move to France. I can move to Spain, to Poland, wherever I like.
So it's almost the same as getting like a visum there for let's say a South African. Is because I know instead of a visa, you get a visum, which means that you can actually travel through the entire Europe.
You get the Schengen visa, which
Schengen
is
visa,
most European countries, but it doesn't include the United Kingdom, which is a different story. It's also a different story, I think, for us. When I moved to the UK, I would have some bureaucracy. I never looked into that. We have many Germans who also come to Austria, and Austrians going to German. Also, most of Switzerland is also German speaking. There's the problem with Switzerland, of course, they have a different currency and they are outside the European Union, so moving to Switzerland is a bit more difficult, but of course there's a lot of exchange, and we have regular Swiss furs attending German, Austrian permits and so on. I'm also going to Golden Beachcon, which is the biggest space convention in end of October, beginning of November, in a skiing area there.
Oh, nice.
Just on a point in respect to the word visum. It's actually just one is a plural form of the other.
Oh, okay,
yes,
sorry.
Visum is one and visa are two, but I think in English you say visa no matter if it... yes.
Yeah, I think the correct term that I was referring to is Schengen visa, which means that you go there and you can actually go to a lot of the different European countries, excluding, like you said, is places like Britain, where the pound...
It's a different story also because they have the Commonwealth of Nations, and some people from the Commonwealth have certain privileges going to Britain. They may not have the same when they go to continental Europe.
Yeah.
Now,
somebody has questions for me on the chat, I see. No? Alright. I'm not looking at the chat.
I'm telling people to ask questions to you.
Yeah.
What, Scratch, go?
I think as far as like the South African passport, you can go to a lot of different countries without a visa. Like quite a few for some odd reason. Is it a visitor's visa or something? I'll Google it, but continue on.
I think it can go to most of Africa, like Botswana, Namibia, those places. But
places like Brazil or something even.
On the topic of travel, actually, Unci, now, I mean, you've probably traveled quite often, quite far and things like that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you've gone to Russia at some point, no?
Yes, in 2008 I've been to Russia,
Moscow,
and Kazakhstan, and Ukraine, and Moscow too. And I've been to India, to Vietnam, and in the past I've also been to the United States, and of course all over Europe.
You've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Canarian Islands and so on, and to Israel I've also been once.
You've generally met up with furs wherever you go, if I'm not mistaken. Now,
Right, it's not it's easy in all the countries. I never found furry living in India, for example.
Yeah.
India has like a billion of people, but no furries that I know. But I went to Vietnam in 2014 with another person, a non-furry from Italy, and there I thought, because I had been with a furry to India in 2012, and I didn't really manage to make contact with local people there, only to the usual tourist contacts like people in hotels, people in taxis and so, who want to earn your money. But then I thought, okay, it would be nice to know some furries from the place. And on Fur Affinity, I found a Vietnam furry community, and I talked to some of them. I told them when I would be in which of places, like Ho Chi Minh City, Dalat, and up to Hanoi. And then when I was there, we arranged a date, and one evening they showed up at the hotel with their motorbikes, because everybody driving a motorbike there. And I sat on the back of the motorbike. We went to a restaurant. We had some bubble tea and dinner together. It was really nice. I'm still in contact with those furries, and it was nice to meet them. They have their own little community down in Vietnam, and most of them never travel to any other countries, but it's nice to see furry communities forming in any part of the world.
Yeah, that is cool.
Especially in Africa, I mean, of all places.
jeez, blow the horn, why don't you?
But it's true.
I hope that Africa is also developing its furry communities. I know it might be difficult in some countries, people are getting internet and getting connected and speaking English, so it's just all that you need to get into some kind of contact with other people, even from other countries or from your own country.
Just the way that you described it there is almost just like any South African described it. It's like the people living here doesn't actually associate themselves with the rest of Africa.
I mean,
South Africa has its own long and complicated history, and there was apartheid. There were different communities in the same country, artificially separated from each other for a long time, I would say. Now they're also trying to come together, but perhaps by being furry, you can also help you come together. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's still some strange things, but like cultural differences, etc. But the thing is that would actually slowly start to work out as more people progress into the fandom. In my personal opinion, it's a new thing for this country to actually not be under that type of censorship and that type of oppression. But it's the furry fandom itself is also a kind of newish thing. It's not really been in existence since forever. So.
Well, if
I
you
grew
have
up in Germany, and there was also East and West Germany, and they also had they took some time growing together.
Yeah, and it's still, but it's still also sort of there. I think one of the biggest factors that enforced it in recent years is actually the addition of the euro.
Yes.
That's really shake that economy, or both economies, into the level that there's no more east and west.
A big matter of debate. I think it's just practical to not have to change money and lose money every time you change whenever you cross a border, especially when you're living in a small country or relatively small country like Austria. Of course, I can travel to Slovenia, to Germany, and I think Czech Republic still have their own, but mostly between Austria and Germany, it's really going quite frictionless when you have the same money.
Yeah.
And also in Italy, it was even even my mobile phone contract works in Italy with no surcharge. I can use mobile internet and so on there.
Okay.
No problem.
I was going to say, I mean, like, the thing is that now my own sort of semi-personal project is to at some point get like the majority of our population, because I mean right now we are overwhelmingly white in respect to the in respect to the community that we have. And I mean, attempting to try to get people from, say, other communities and other cultures within our own country to start joining up and things like that. I know that we have 2 or 3 colored or Indian people within our groups. In fact, we've even got one person who's Greek, which is actually kind of interesting.
Greek?
Yeah, Greek.
Interestingly, I know some furries of Indian origin living in Austria or living in Italy, but still I don't know anybody in India who is furry. I've been to the country for a month, but no chance.
But I also want to refer back to a thing that Tox posted here, as in our earlier discussions, you mentioned, to be fair, most furries that I know have been furries for ages, but kept it to themselves. So it isn't, and then without the T.
That's the problem. How do you count furries?
You can't.
There's also a debate in Austria. How many Austrian furries do we have? 100, 200, 300? Nobody knows. Because there are some who are going to our regular fur meets, and there are some who are posting in the various forums. Yes. There are a number of forums, of course. There are a number of fur meets, and big ones, small ones in different places. And you can count them all together, but you still won't have all the furries, because there are many who, I think, just consumers, or who are talking perhaps in some online chat, who are meeting privately, but perhaps they are not close to a big city, so they are not really going to the meetings. And how do you count those?
You can't. You just absolutely can't. It's just like me. Yeah. I've been a furry for actually quite some time, but only recently started engaging with the fandom. Like in 20...
Who is starting here?
It's Unpu.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Like in 2012 or something like that, I actually started interacting with the people, but it actually comes from a little bit back. It's more years back, when I exited school about. When I was in school, I had no proper internet connection. We were still running 56k dial-up, so trying to engage if anything back then was terrible. But the thing is it is actually almost like the promotion, like promoting it should be more on getting people to interact with each other, and then you're gonna know, right? But instead of like getting people to just like the stuff, because I believe, and what you say is true, and what Tox says is true, there's probably a lot more than we think that are interested in the artwork, etc., but we don't know.
Yeah, it's just difficult to sort of get a beat on them.
Yeah, you can't, because there's... Sorry?
It is difficult to make criteria for being furry. You really need a furry character. I know some people in the American community, for example, who have been there forever and were really well known without even having a personal furry character. That's not the criteria either. There might be writers or organizers or artists without having their own furry character.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, but that's my definition of it. Just make sure that this is how I view it myself. This is not the definition of anything.
When people non-furries ask me what is it that qualifies a furry, I say most of them are having a personal character of certain species and description that they identify with, but not all. And some of them are doing fursuiting or artwork or writing or organizing meetings or whatever. Of course, not all.
In my personal opinion, actually, it's supposed, or it looks like it's more black and white than like the anime fandom or the sci-fi fandom. And the reason why I say that is it's a little bit distinctive. Whether somebody, if you ask somebody, are they a furry, and you're a furry, and they know that they're comfortable in answering that question, because there's some people might say no, even though they are, because they're still afraid of like the old concept. I don't know why. But the thing is, it's really black and white. Where if somebody asks you, are you an anime fan? And then you're like, there's a grey area there. Do you understand? Yeah, I liked that show, but I wouldn't really consider myself as a person that would be part of that fandom, if you will. Do you understand what I mean?
Well, it's the same thing though. Like in our community as well, you have what we would call latent furs, or
but you have to be very careful when doing that with the furry fandom, because it's like saying that you like Tom and Jerry. Most people will answer yes. Does that mean that they're in that grey area? Not necessarily.
Not even all Tom and Jerry's fans will have watched every episode and be an expert in all the history of Tom and Jerry.
And
that's the difference about the furry community as well, when you compare it to those fandoms of certain series or genres that furries, mostly we have our own creation, or our own created characters, and we aren't just fans of something that somebody else wrote, like a story, like a film, or like a universe or animated series and so on.
We're more fans of a concept, but it grows deeper than that. You get people that consider it as deeper levels.
Furries contribute something to that. Even those who are not drawing or writing, at least they are
podcasting.
What would be a character that fits to my personality? And so they are at least developing some kind of character concept.
Or at least in their heads, a world.
Yeah.
They're at least creating that type of universe in their minds that they can say, okay, well this is a cool concept. Even though it's only personal, it's this cool concept that you can think about and you can play around with it in your head, if you understand what I mean by that. But
interestingly, I have met a number who say, I'm not a furry, but I like the artwork, I like the stories, and I like meeting other furries, but I'm not a furry.
We had people on that are actual artists in the fandom that said they're not.
That is true. Unci, just sort of to ask you a question. I mean, you've been around since 1993. Within the European sort of... I am full of no words today.
Yeah, I'm hearing.
Within the European sphere of sort of the furry community and things like that, since 1993 up until now, has there been a significant change in the way that furries act and react to things? Obviously, like there's probably a larger influx of younger people, because obviously in 1993 was people who were already studying, they were in universities already, they'd gotten busy Usenets and things like that, so you're looking at around about 23, 24 starting ages, and I mean that starting age has dropped sort of significantly now.
That's right, because back at the time I was one of those who had just had their first internet at university, and back in the 90s it was the only place where you could get internet, unless there were some dial-in providers, and this was a bit adventurous and not really common, and also not really fast, not really online, because it was more like a offline exchange of messages. Now there are some younger furries, and the reaction is, I think it's a bit divided. I actually like meeting the younger furries. Some of them are really interesting also in their ideas and concepts. I get along well with them. Other older furries just keep to each other.
Yeah, but that's a thing with age.
That's the thing of trust the character, really. And I think, of course, there are new furries all the time, and there might be some who just peek in for a bit, and it's the phase, and 2 or 3 years later they're gone again. But it's a nice way to get together. It's a nice way to get together personally, and of course, we also have we have certain peculiarities. The furries, when you probably you know each other usually by the nickname, not by a real name. And when we meet, we get personal really quickly. We don't have this distance that you have in many other communities.
Yeah.
Which might also lead to problems, because some people are overly snuggly, or really they want to approach you even though we don't really like them, because of course there might be personal dislike to certain types of people that also exist in the community.
We had a story from I think 2 or 3 weeks back where one of the people who was with us was mentioning that while he was still in a fursuit, somebody had apparently started fooling around with his foot. Just started nuzzling it for a long period of time. That it became uncomfortable.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that is weird.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
But imagine there are other parts of the body where you get even more bothered than that.
But it's your foot.
Yeah.
That's you can just kick, right?
Yeah, but you don't want to kick. And you'll hurt them. But one of the things that I was also going to ask is that, I mean, being, I guess to a large extent, the personality that you are within the European ring, is it often that you sort of get odd requests from people or emails asking you about this or that or the other thing? Or, because I remember I was speaking to another person recently who was mentioning that he just got a large amount of very, very interesting emails to his account, specifically because he was running a biggish con in America.
Now I'm curious, what kind of emails did he get?
I wish I'd asked him about it, but I just know that he says that he tends to, if the email's too long, he tends to ignore it.
Probably fans, right?
Yeah, no, obviously fans, but I mean the thing is that if you are a personality, what kind of emails would you expect to get, especially within the furry community?
Oh, jeez, if you're any type of media celebrity, the type of emails that you get is, in many cases, completely nonsensical. It could be critics, it could be anything. It's crazy. I've dealt with like bands that get these type of emails.
But Unci, like, specifically, have you ever actually received any kind of odd requests?
Have my babies.
Not really, no.
Have my children.
Not of the internet kind or so, no.
That type of email. Hi, have my babies. Kind regards.
Getting any personal emails from people I don't know.
Mm.
Sometimes I do, and I say, okay, it's nice to get in contact with each other, but that's rare.
Yeah.
But you're creeping me out,
I
right?
try to at least get to know everybody who comes to our convention, because it's also part of the purpose of the contact, get into personal contact with each other, of course, keep contact with everybody. I'm not getting the strange and odd kind of request that I rather would like to avoid.
Yeah, no, but you could just imagine like somebody that is either a big musician or something like that, even in the fandom or outside of the fandom, where the market is probably more intense in that field. What type of messages they get when somebody gets a hold of their email, right? Especially when it's the email that you use. You can just imagine it's gonna be completely nuts.
Yeah, your organization's email.
Yeah, it reminds me of that stunt that Deadmau5 pulled wearing Skrillex's phone number on a T-shirt at the Grammys or something.
People never even know that it was Skrillex's phone number until they dialed it.
Yeah, it was so
Just
funny.
some phone number and somebody called it. Or
Yeah, the guy was like going to the what was Grammys? Yeah, it was the Grammys, and he was wearing like a phone number on his T-shirt
with the words "you mad" underneath.
But this phone number was the phone number of a electronic music producer, Skrillex, that won 2 Grammys that year.
Well, he got a lot of phone calls because of that.
Just because of that, because fans of this guy phoned the number, and then they heard this guy answer, and they're like, "What the hell?" But it's like trolling. That is it. It's
that
just
was total troll, though.
It was a little bit strange to see in that type of environment, but that guy does it. So, but it's the same thing. You can imagine that type of responses. But whatever. It's not really a part of the topic.
Do you in South Africa have any Any interest from mass media in the furry community, like TV or papers also wanted to know about you?
We keep as far under the radar as possible. Yeah, the problem with South Africa is that we're very conservative in respect to what we do and how we think and things like that. And it is rather unfortunate because, I mean, like mass media to an extent is both a blessing and a curse, I guess, because, you know, they can either do what an actual, you know, journalist would do, or they could do the whole, oh, look at these people, they are so strange. Haha.
The thing is, Unci, what you have to realize is, look, some of us can actually kind of step out, right, and we'll fursuit in public. I would kind of step out and tell a forum or something like that, hey, I'm part of this weird thing, be weird with me and ask me weird shit questions or something like that.
Do you have public fursuit walks there?
No, we don't have that many fursuiters.
Yeah, soon now.
But these type of things, when we deal with actual public relations, our country is very similar to shock marketing type of drived media. So when you watch the news here or any type of public relations, it's always sensationalist. So you're gonna find yourself in a situation where the PR that you're gonna get in this fandom in specific will be trying to be negative towards it. So they will, if you get PR, they're gonna try, unless it's organized, right? Unless it's organized by you and you know the person that is gonna interview you, etc., etc. But if it's any news channel or something like that, I just tell people the worst thing that you can say is obviously no comment or something, but try to avoid them under all circumstances, because
I'm not sure if you even have a decent mass media that you can trust, that will not make a negative curiosity out of you.
None of the newspapers in South Africa are liberal enough to actually think that this is a good thing, I think.
Yeah. There are some things that if you deal with them in a specific way, like I said, if it's organized, right, then it would be a good thing. Like, for example, I can even mention some shows, but I would rather not. Like Sunday nights, everybody knows what I'm talking about on Mnet. Right? This show has a very uncensored version of like the real deal, and they don't lie, right? But the thing is they also have the sensational trait sometimes that I do not like. And if somebody like that would confront, let's say I'm in a position in the furry fandom where I can make the decision, right? Then I would actually say, you know, okay, let's set up this and get a PR person. Let me talk to the PR person before I'm on camera. And also, there's that fucking problem where you're always saying that there's no such thing as off camera. Yeah. But you're gonna have to deal with that situation then, because the moment you refuse, it's almost even worse, because then they're gonna find somebody that will talk to them, and that somebody might not be the person that you want to talk to them.
Untrue. Much like what Cheetah's saying here is that, you know, if the community does go above a certain popularity, you can't necessarily hide it anymore. And he actually says that we're kind of describing what the European and American fandoms were like sort of in the early days. And yeah, I mean, as a small community, we don't necessarily have the numbers to kind of either attract media attention or attract good media attention.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is a thing to keep in the back of furries' minds right now, because Cheetah is 100% right. Yes, for the population count, we're not that big yet, but the thing is we are growing.
We are a big community, and we are not really a very organized community. There's not really a leading group who is saying what goes outside and what stays inside, or representing furries to the media. There might be representatives of, for example, the big sites like Furry Affinity or so, the big outsides, or the big events, and it's usually them that the media will contact first when they want to do a video or so.
So I think if you're gonna run
the link. This is a 15-minute piece that came on ATV, a small Austrian private channel, a year ago. Together with a few others, we were furries. We were together with medieval sword fighters and cosplayers. It was done by Pawdcast, who is a rather good film producer, and has done other documentaries about a number of interesting subjects. We got in contact with one furry at an animal convention, and then he redirected him to me, and we talked about 1 hour on the phone, so it really took us a lot of time beforehand. In the end, he visited 2 or 3 furries at home, and he came one day to Lake South-Afrifur's age, and he made he walked with us at the fursuit walk in Werkel, and he took some interviews with furries outside the house, because there's also a lot of tension, because many furries didn't want to appear on TV. They didn't even want a camera anywhere nearby the con site, because they say, no, we want to remain among ourselves and we want no media. So there was a lot of tension, but I think the result is rather okay. It was not distorted in any way. We just said what was on our mind, and it was just one day of the convention was completely taken up by production of TV, because of course they wanted hours and hours and hours of film that they could use in these few minutes on TV at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a good piece, of course. I mean, but I mean, if one sort of looks
at a good piece, but in the end, I would hesitate to get another video crew to our convention. We are small enough that we can say it's private and we don't want any media attention. No thanks.
If you're a convention owner, it's a very good thing to keep track of, like, what the media and stuff like that. But what I'm actually talking about is also there's like these furries going out to like these public events like Rage Expo or some anime convention or something like that, and there is always media at those things.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and also when you are doing a fursuit walk, perhaps near some public event in the city, there must always be somebody filming it, and there are of course also people filming it and putting it on YouTube, and it might also get a lot of views. It's not on TV, but it's still popular and it's still in the public. So I don't really understand the people who say, okay, I'm on YouTube, that's no problem, but when I appear in the background of something running on TV, that's a really big problem.
Yeah.
But okay, when they don't want to be seen, you have to accept that.
One assumes that, I mean, like that's the weirdest thing. I mean, if you look at say mainstream media versus YouTube, I'm almost thinking that if it's a person who is possibly a YouTube personality or something like that, who's actually taking videos in a specific area and you're walking past, then I mean you'd almost get more views on that than you would on mainstream media. And the thing is that I mean, if you look at our media itself, none of our channels are outside of national borders, and the thing is that we could sort of stand a chance to be almost more exposed through YouTube than by mainstream media.
Yeah, that is even funnier.
They also give more attention to what they see on YouTube. When it's in some documentary, in some private TV, you are watching your dinner, you say, okay, that's another group of crazy people that don't really keep anything in mind.
Well, but that is still okay. When you say something like that, that is still okay. It's something that not everybody is into. But the thing is I'm reading what Cheetah says here. You have two kinds of media. Local media are usually...
They want to make you some kind of scandal. And they take because you are not experienced on the media and you might not be not act very professionally. And they can easily turn that into something very negative.
Most new...
Yeah. No?
Most news channels won't do that, right? But the thing is our news is also very biased still. It's like really sensationalist and really strange. The possibility that won't even make a good show if you're boring enough, right? It's probably one of the most probable things that will happen. But the thing is that our news is still very sensationalist, so it might be considered as like reality TV or private TV if you actually consider it. Because it's just like the difference between like CNN and Fox News in Russia today. If you watch those three news channels together in a situation, you might sort of get the story, but you have to watch all three, because the one says this, the other one says that, and the other one says this.
And this is a good idea to watch the BBC as well, or Al Jazeera, or whatever.
you kind of have to make up your own mind and get the story between those three news channels. If you understand what I mean.
Perspective from which they look at things, so you have to take that into account. You shouldn't overestimate the impact of the program on TV. This documentary has been shown a number of times on ATV, but it's just a small private Austrian channel with no, of course it's shown nationally, but doesn't really have billions and billions watching that, and we had absolutely nobody contacting us, even though the name of the convention and the name of the furries were mentioned several times, contacting us and, I've seen that on TV, who are you? So it's not a way of really finding new furries and out there. It's more like giving people a bit of an idea what furry is about, so they hear that rather than something worse.
I also want to hammer a little bit about the topic that goes around in this country a lot with the people that says like we're so conservative, etc., whatnot. When you're dealing online with people online, they're normally people that engage with each other online, they won't have that strange perception.
Adverse reaction.
Adverse reaction, yes, that's the linguistics major, thanks. Anyways, they won't have that adverse reaction, and I've tested this, and I've even joined 2 meetups after that test, where they know that I'm like part of this fandom, and then they just ask me like random questions throughout the entire day, and I just answer the way I possibly best can, but I legitimately make it clear that this is my perception.
At the end of the day, I mean, look at what they did with Blue. And the amount of like the storm that went on around it as well. I mean, it was just some random radio show. They asked him a couple of questions. They asked him about sex, and then he went and he acknowledged it, which is fair. But then they actually spun it around that he said that it was all about sex. They literally doctored all of his audio and then turned it into a...
Well, the moment you do that, that means you're going into the wrong PR. That's like if a dude comes with a camera to you that has and they say we're from freaking what type of weird reality TV shows do you get today, and we want to know more about this, right? You kind of have to figure that out, and you kind of have to realize, okay, they're probably even going to cut up your audio and turn what you say into something completely different from what you said, right?
Come on, go.
Sex sells. It's just the oldest thing that's how you make a sensationalist.
It will always sell. It will always sell. That's why it sells in music. It sells in everything, because it's like a type of shock marketing method. It will always work. Right?
Look, it's something that I've argued about on several occasions. I mean, even with my students. That sex does sell, and that's exactly it. But the thing is that it's this horrifically out of proportion kind of perspective. I actually don't think that I don't think that we speak about sex enough, because that's what makes it taboo. Is that if you don't speak about it and if you cut it off and you say no, you're not allowed to do all of these things, then it becomes taboo, and it will be taboo, and it will always be taboo. Whereas when 2 people are together, they have literally no influence over you. yet you make it as though they do. I mean, that's the worst thing about it. When sex sells, they're selling you a specific image. And they're obviously selling a furry image in a specific way, that this is literally all we do, much like Cheetah mentioned CSI's lovely little fictional story.
I actually have never seen that episode. I think I have somewhere in my heart.
It was crap fursuits. That's all that I can remember. It was like the worst fursuits ever.
There's something about a traffic accident with a fursuit as well, yeah.
Actually, some of the
shot in the back.
Some of the story was actually funny because they thought it was a hunter thought it was like a real raccoon.
It wasn't a raccoon. He looked like a raccoon. He thought it was a coyote.
Oh, yeah.
But the rest of the show, but that's also the thing. If you watch the show, you'll see what is this? What's all the hype about? I'm like, it's really stupid. It's not even. And people kind of attach to that, and they're like, well, it's like these crazy people, and they do these things. And I'm like, no. If that type of shit actually happens at like any convention, it won't be that type of convention that is like marketed on a banner on a lamppost somewhere. This is happening. But whatever, it's all just crazy sensationalism. The CSI had to make a good story, and that was their story. And now every furry is going.
But I think they had also other stories about other communities that they also just mentioned there.
I thought it was damn funny. I thought that show was actually damn funny, and everybody else is going like, oh no, they ruined the fandom. Come on, if you guys say that, then you're taking serious offense. And if you take offense, right? That means that you might be into something like that. But whatever, it's just a show.
Unci, back to you. I mean, in respect to, and again, I'm going to move back towards sort of like cultural perspectives of different furs in different areas. I mean, is there a difference about how people act around one another in respect to, say, Italian furs versus, say, Vietnamese furs or versus Russian furs? Is there something that they hold more secretive than normal, or is there something that they don't necessarily do that other groups do?
Well, I've seen public fursuit walks in Italy, and I know they also happen in Russia. Of course, there's nothing wrong about walking around in fursuit. It might be more that certain types of sexuality are more taboo in certain countries, so people are keeping more secretive because of that. But of course, how furries are with each other, it's really the closeness that you are among a certain circle of friends. You tend to hug each other, you tend to share personal stories of your furry characters and your other furries that you know. That's pretty much universal.
But
it was also very nice because I was meeting the Russian furries in Russia or meeting the Vietnamese furries there. So we have something in common, even though the people are completely from another place of the world.
I want to give you an example of what I think Ivic also kind of refers to. I don't know if that was in your head, Ivic, but for example, in South Africa we have like some traditions. One of these traditions is what we call like the braai, right? Now that is a braai,
barbecue.
B-R-A-A-I is basically sort of equivalent to American barbecue, right? The reason why it's just there is no the reason it's a little bit different is because it doesn't need a reason. You can have any reason to hold this to hold this type of barbecue. Some people do it every weekend, right? So our fur meats kind of go in that direction.
It doesn't matter if a person's staying in an apartment or if they're staying anywhere else. Obviously, when I had a fur meat at my place, I don't have a braai, and I don't think that the people would really appreciate me blackening up the balcony above me. But yeah, I mean, like we could probably actually still have a braai here. Now, come to think of it. But yeah, I mean, like,
why is even in German Inpw there? It's interesting. I never heard about that.
but to talk about it, it's like every fur meat, or not everyone, most of them, is one of these. It's like a barbecue. It's with steak and wors, and which is like sausage, and that's it. Crazy.
Okay, during our fur meets we also have, for example, during Lakeside Fairs we have one traditionally barbecue outside at least once in the week, and of course that's kind of obvious because we are making all our meals, so one of the meals can also be barbecue outside kind of. But most of the fur meets that are happening more regularly are just meeting at a pub and having some drinks and something to eat together and talking. And that's just for the evening.
Which is also damn fun.
what's actually kind of interesting.
We have not so many fursuiters here, so the fursuit events outside the conventions are rather rare. We have a few fursuit builders and some who are also going to like events like anime or live ball. Also, when the big parades are in the cities, they show up in fursuit. But there are not so many fursuiting events here. But I'm not a fursuiter, I must admit. So maybe I'm not really into this scene, and I don't know all the events that fursuiters might go to in Vienna.
We're not fursuiters either yet.
Well, I have a head.
You have a head.
We have
Do you want to get like fluffy gloves for that one?
I'm already. It's already being done.
Any fursuiters going to taking their fursuit to conventions or to events there in South Africa?
Someone did. Didn't Yo take it to Rage or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you
Yeah.
can hear.
Okay. So it's that, and then Ubuntu has been fursuit on a couple of things. If I'm not mistaken, Ubuntu, some of the Cape Town furs actually went out in fursuit to the
Pride Parade, yeah.
Pride Parade, yes. At the beginning of this year in obviously in Cape Town. But yeah, so I mean they do tend to be a little bit active, but then again it is also in the middle of January where it's like 32 degrees outside.
Yeah,
We had the problem in Austria because we had two fursuit works that Lakeside Fairs this year in July. It was the hottest July on record in recorded history. And we had to move the fursuit walks into the evening because it was too hot in the afternoon. And we had something like 5 or 7 fursuiters who managed to do it for almost 1 hour, but then they're really overheated. I understand because of that.
No, that's actually quite interesting. I mean, like the entire idea of fursuit walking and things like that. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, you look very, very closely at one of the videos that Tipsy actually, or Tigsy, or that thing, actually showed that there was a point that there was a fur that had passed out on the way on rounds.
Well, what? Well, in suit.
While in suit and while on the furry parade outside Anthracon.
Could be heat exhaustion as well.
Yeah, it's obviously heat exhaustion, I guess. I mean, like it's just that kind of thing. It just kind of happens. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you're from a northern country and it snows and you've got fursuit like foot paws on, I'm pretty sure the chances of slipping are quite high.
You have different problems in winter, but there are some who are really like winter fursuiting because, of course, you don't overheat. So it's easier. And I heard, I've seen films and photos
Skiing.
and heard talk to the Russian furries who do their main convention. Rusperencia in Moscow is in January when it's really cold and snowy. And they are doing some snow fursuiting, of course, there. There's also an event, Silicon, where I've been in the past a few times because of I have another thing at that time I can't attend this year or next year, but they also had skiing fursuiters, so fursuiters on ski or snowboard.
There's nothing better than snowboarding.
I'm seeing Cheetah says we had our first street parade partly outside of the and we did have a couple of heat strokes this year. Unfortunately, luckily we have paramedics. Yeah, but they're organised. You're a big convention runner, so they
the bigger you are, the more you need to take care of that, and have some medics who take care of fursuiters who might overheat.
Yeah.
This is my experience, or our experience at Lakeside First, is it's not really important how long you walk. It's the best thing is to start it directly where you want to go. So we are usually driving to some car parking garage, really in the middle of the city. And we are starting there, and usually changing just in the garage. So we have to improvise a bit there, but it means they don't have to wear their fursuit on the way to the fursuit parade. They just put it on and walk around for half an hour or for 1 hour, and when they run out of steam, or when they overheat, they can easily say, okay, now we are finishing.
Yeah, we have to consider climate change now. Okay.
We have had another story from SambaCon.
It's a serious problem for furries.
The Italian convention, and they have their fursuit walk in the evening. It started at 9 when it was already dark, but you have to consider Italian towns really have a lot of activity in the evening. Coastal towns, people are going swimming during the day, then they have dinner, and then they go out in town and see all the other people. And so cities are really full of people at 9 or 10 o'clock, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of audience. We did our fursuit walk then. It was really a lot of fun. It was really crowded, but fursuiters really enjoyed it. But then they also have laws in Italy that you have to announce a walk to the town, and you have a certain time frame, and after that time it has to be finished. So we had to look, somebody had to look at the clock and say, sorry, it's 10:30, we have to go back, because we might otherwise get problems with the police. We didn't get them, but
arrested.
There's a law that you may not cover your face during a public event because of fear of terrorism or whatever.
Yeah, but that's a thing that I also I stress it sometimes here and there, is that yes, we're a new furry community, and some people are getting fursuits and whatnot now, and some people are doing it in public, and I stress it here and there just a little bit, just to get the idea around, is that remember, some places might not be kosher with the fact that you have your face covered, right? Because there is crime in South Africa, a lot of it.
Yes.
So you have to consider if you're going to a shop or something like that, if it is okay with those people. Because if you're in a fursuit, you could just take something and run. Although you won't get very far with running, but you understand what I mean. It's like it's just something that you have to consider for just a second before you go out into public places, especially public places like malls.
Whenever you enter a place like a shop, you have to you need permission from the owner, or
to do that. Yes.
Permission that the owner doesn't throw you out. Usually, it's not a problem when you enter there with a small number of fursuiters. People are happy, and people are also happy when we take photos outside the ice cream shop or whatever, and put them on the internet, so the shop gets more publicity.
We actually had a fursuiter during one of our little golf days. It was putt-putt, not golf. That was the big difference. That was actually it was a very, very hot day. I can remember, or evening even. It was really, really hot that evening. I was sweating. Not that that is difficult to do, but I mean the thing is, no, it really isn't strange. But the thing is that now he was in fursuit, and we'd actually been going through a mall, and at one point we were walking past this one like sort of bumping club with these two bodyguards or bodyguard type people with like bow ties and everything like that, and we were stupid. We decided that no, hey, let's take him there and see what happens. And yeah, security showed up.
Okay,
security showed up, and then we took pictures of security.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is the same thing, and I don't know if you can remember Scratch when we were at that bar the other days. I had Frankie in my backpack, and I said I'm gonna order a drink with like wearing this head and the gloves and everything. Now that the waitress refused to help me while I was wearing Frankie. She just said she laughed and thought it was funny and etc. And then I tried to order a drink, and she's like, "No, you have to take it off because it's their policy." I'm like,
"No." I thought to her you were.
Okay, any shop can have strange policies, but usually they are just fine with fursuiters going in and out.
No, I think
nobody steals anything.
It might be that your face just needs to be on camera. That's, I think, the whole concept there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting sort of thought process that goes behind. I wouldn't know. Like, I mean, if I wasn't, that's going to be a strange concept. If I wasn't a fur, I wouldn't necessarily know what I would do if I actually saw a fursuit. I'd probably do the one thing that most Afrikaans jocks do, which is tackle the hell out of it.
Yeah, you're Afrikaans joke now.
So you always meet spotters walking with the fursuiters and who are looking at the other people. Is there anybody with bad intentions? Because a fursuiter can't take care of whoever comes up at them from behind.
Yeah, don't tackle fursuiters. There's still a human being inside, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a teddy bear. They actually do have a nervous system. They feel. They have bones that can break.
When I see a fursuiter in public, I approach the fursuiter. Of course, I make sure that the fursuiter is noticing me before I do anything like hugging. And then, of course, the fursuiters also usually, when they open their arms, it's okay to hug, no problem.
Yeah. And just also remember that they can't see. Well, when I'm wearing Frankie, I swear that thing's vision is much worse than a normal fursuit. I can't see shit. I just see dead ahead of me.
Emptiness.
Oh, I'm curious to see pictures.
Sure, you can post pictures on the stream.
What how Frankie looks? It's because the eyes aren't like the cartoony eyes. It's those balls. It's like
dead eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Do I have a picture of him? Wait, let me go.
I'm sure you've got pictures of him. If you didn't, then you're just a very bad photographer.
I think I have one or two that I might have posted to the group once.
No, let me actually post. Well, Frankie is a redefined. It's like an experiment that was happening, and I just referred the guy. But it came out worse than it actually looked, in my personal opinion. But
red.
Yeah, the people. I don't know. I like the long freaking hair, long fur a little bit more. Actually, I would refur him again. Just for the experiment purposes.
At the moment, small enough that we can just do spontaneous fursuiting with like 10 fursuiters or so, and it's okay. It's not against any law. When we are a bigger group, you have to arrange things with the town, and perhaps so this South-Afrifur parade even had a policeman blocking off the road when we are crossing the street as a group.
Animal Crossing.
One year we
No.
One year we just took all the trouble to talk to register this suit walk officially with the town, and we had to pay 50 euros as a fee, and then we had this route where we had to go, but we noticed it's not really necessary. We had to do curious policemen looking at us next time, but it was okay. We were not really disrupting anything. We were just walking around town, and of course the town of Bergel was also empty enough. It was really like a big city.
I can't really think of any town where we can do that off the bat.
Yes. Well, not get policemen to actually do things for us.
Yeah.
Are there any small towns also where people will go in the pedestrian zone, whatever, where you can just do a fursuit walk for fun?
Yeah.
I want to say small town. No. Small town, definitely no.
Yeah, no. Small town, you're probably
small
more
town
likely to get
towns,
shot.
It's small town stupid like Calvin is.
Well, it depends on what small town. If it's Mossel Bay or something like that, then yes.
I'd actually be far more comfortable doing it in the center of Cape Town. With enough spotters there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But
Just-
when you do it in Cape Town, you would make it official and talk to the town first and to the city management and arrange where we can go safely.
Yeah.
Or would you just say, okay, let's go there and do a pursuit walk?
Yeah.
I'm not sure even. to be
I
honest.
think if I'm not mistaken, I think our first suit walk will probably be indoors.
Yeah.
And it'll be more like just a little march around, I guess, or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. I'm
If
I'm
Bloom Campus is
speculating
quiet
here.
enough to probably do it there.
yeah. What are the
When you make something like a shopping mall, you just have to talk to the management. When the management is fine, you are kind of public, but still in a private place. But usually, shopping malls also want to make money with you whenever you do something there, so it must not be the best thing. Let me see, there's a link. One image. Oh, cute.
Hey, that is the best. That's the best response I've ever heard. Normally, I hear, help, no.
That's not creepy. That's good. That's nice. Nice head. Nice expressive head. I like that face.
Yeah, well, it's
That's
not
also
entirely
like
built by me. It's just referred by me. It's actually like this cheap consumer product that you can buy that is like a Halloween head, and I just
Okay.
modified it a little bit.
So it's off-the-shelf product that you modified.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, Scratch and I'm looking at you, Scratch. We'll most probably buy one of these ourselves, and with Unpu's help, when he comes up this side, he can help me refer mine to the green and white.
Oh jeez,
think-
now I have jobs to do.
Yes, I've got jobs to do. Of course, you've always got jobs to do.
That thing does not fit my head. I can't wear it.
I'm not even sure if it fit mine, but then again, you've got a bush around your face.
Yeah, but that's what I said. It's the problem. It's the fact that you got the beard. It's like,
I don't
It's
think
not
it's
just
that.
the beard, it's also the mushroom on top of his head.
the hair and the beard. It's everything coming together.
I also have a big head. I have never made a fursuit head for myself, but I tried on other fursuit head, or tried to try them on. My head was too big.
Yeah, that can happen, and actually that's a little bit of a problem. I used to drive motorcycle, right? And especially when you have like this one is like more plastic material on the inside. If you have a foam head, it's a problem when somebody with a big head wears it, right? Because when you wear it again and you have a smaller head, like a motorcycle helmet, it actually kind of molded into that big head.
I see. So all the foam is compressed, and
And you
it won't
can't-
fit you anymore.
And what happens is when you drive motorcycle and you turn, this actually happened, and you turn your head and then the helmet stays looking at the front and you're turning into this.
That's not ideal.
So it's not ideal, especially when it's off-roading, trust me.
Oh crap.
We are coming to the close of the podcast right now. I just want to run through a couple of administrative things for South-Afrifur. Firstly, Unci, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us. We really do
If
appreciate
anybody
it.
on the chat has questions for me, just go on.
Yes.
Hello, that's Bazooka also. Hello.
Yes, if you do have any questions for him, you can ask them now, but just while I'm busy, you can sort of build up a question list so that he can actually have a couple of answers through them. One of the things that I do want to say is that in respect to the next couple of months, I know that I've been keeping the sort of ZA fur community a little bit in the dark about this. But we recently, within this week, sort of part of our little birthday gift to ourselves or something like that, I don't even know what to call it. Since tomorrow is our birthday, we will next month have Kiel Gold on the podcast.
Yes.
And then the month after that, the month of November, Uncle Kage has actually responded as a positive to be somewhere within that month that we have him on our podcast as well.
Yay.
Yes.
So relatively excited. Not that Unci is not exciting at all. You're one big fish out there. We really do appreciate you being on.
I'm sure Carter will also with a lot of stories, yeah.
But one of the things is, I mean, if you ever have again or anything along the lines of that, we would definitely love to have you on again. Maybe to sort of more focus on the stories from 1993 all the way to 2015. So that'll be a couple of podcasts, hopefully. But like, because I mean, a perspective like yours is something that is invaluable, and like hearing these stories and hearing what you're bringing to sort of, you know, as a person who's been there pretty much almost from the beginning, especially in respect to the European sector.
Yeah, I would have a lot of talk about, certainly.
Yes.
Thank you everybody for listening so far. This is the first time that I am on such a live streaming program. There's another one planned. That's why I said hi, Bravura. That's a Swiss furry. Actually, he was Austrian. He's living in Switzerland. He's also making a kind of streaming radio. He wants to have us on the radio later this year, because we made some recordings during Lakes at first, and it will be. This was a nice test. It was kind of spontaneous, and I think I hope I said enough things that are interesting to listen to.
No, very much.
The other thing that I'd like to do, since I think we're not doesn't seem like anybody actually has any questions. I'm sorry.
I also try to ask.
Yes. I'd like to say thank you to the people who are listening. Cheetah, KinkenZA, Victor, obviously Unci, thank you once again. Cuddlewolf, Tox, Lord Neon, Dachand. I hope I said that correctly.
That's a list of people. There are actually more than 10.
Kane and Bravura and Chris Husky. I know those two came on a little bit late for the sort of main event part of the podcast. Not that we have another part of the podcast, but in any case, thank you guys all for listening. We really appreciate sort of your continued support and everything like that. Once again, we do this every Sunday at 8 o'clock, either Central European time or Central African time, or 2 p.m. ET, or what do you call it, Eastern time. I have a cat.
Eastern Standard Time, I think, or Eastern
Yeah,
Pacific.
thanks very much. I just heard of it a few days ago, and I never really heard your program live. I just heard I listened to some of the recordings on YouTube. I think this one will also be
Yes.
recorded and on YouTube, and so I can tell my friends. There were others who were interested, but they have to work or they are away now, so they couldn't follow it live.
It's, well, it's on YouTube now without delay. It's going to be on tonight, so we do it.
Yeah. So just search for us on Google or wherever you want to as South-Afrifur. We do exist on there. You'll see that I think, if I'm not mistaken, Unpru, you have the logo up on our site there.
Yeah. What do you mean, the logo?
Like our logo, just so that they know that's the logo that we use for pretty much all of our.
Yeah, it's on every site.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it, and yeah.
And thanks for Cheetah for giving me a compliment on Frankie, because I normally don't actually get that. and Unci.
And thanks very much. I'd like to talk more to you, not just online on streaming, but sometimes also in person, perhaps. It's nice to have you as two new furry friends. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Or three furry friends. You have three people. Yes. Right.
Yes.
And we might also want Cheetah online as well one day. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there.
That's why I was asking whether he was from Furry Muck. He was like the Cheetah from Furry Muck.
I think Cheetah as well on Furry Muck.
It's a bit of Furry Muck. Yeah, it is him. It is owner of chairman of Eurofronts, by the way, for those that didn't know.
All right.
Okay, cheers, guys.
Thanks very much. And goodbye. Perhaps I make it to South Africa sometime, and I will
Yes.
do there in person. It would be nice. I wanted to do it this year, but I couldn't for various reasons, and perhaps next year or the year after.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, and goodbye.
Alrighty, cheerio, guys.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Jen.